Okay, so now it's time to invite our third speaker, who is Dr. Aminullah from University of Macerata, and he will present his work on modeling economic disruptions and resilience strategies for Pakistan's transportation sector during political protest. Dr. Amin is pursuing his PhD degree in the Department of Economics and Law at the University of Macerata, Italy. His research areas includes operations management, supply chain management, decision making, sustainability, input, output, and computational general equilibrium models. He completed his undergrad in photonics and completed his master's in operations management. Dr. Amin has numerous research publications to his name as well. So, Dr. Amin, you can share your screen and we look forward to your work.
Hello everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible and we can also see your screen.
Okay. Thank you for your kind introduction and also for inviting me and letting me present my idea, which is like currently a work in progress. So I don't have a, you can say, a proper final results to show for, but I have made a proper outline to show what we are going to do because it is something, an amalgamation of both the economic and AHP terminologies, and we are trying to solve the problems related to the transportation supply chain within Pakistan. So first of all, let me introduce I am 1 minute. Okay. So first of all, the thing is that as we know that transportation plays a key role in each and every economy around the globe, whether it's a developing country or a developed country. And the importance of transportation can be justified from the fact that it is one of the three more major key factors of the supply chain that includes purchasing, manufacturing, and transportation. So anything problematic with that can seriously impact an economy or even a country as a general in a long term. And that is why we need the transportation sector to be fully functional and sustainable in every kind of regard. So this is the, you can say, like a case study scenario in which we are trying to solve this problem in the case of South Asia, which is like, you can say, exposed to violence and countrywide protests on regular basis. That happens like on average twice or thrice in a month. That results in the highways and motorways to shut down, and the key entrances to the main cities, airports are all closed. And what happens is that it drives all the political parties, the workers, and every person that is involved in those protests to go into one place, which is in a way we can say that maybe better for a democracy, but it is a pain for a country as a whole because it creates a lot of mess, especially in the terms of transportation industry. That's the point of our discussion here. And related to these, we have like numerous recent examples like the riots in the capital by the Trump supporters, or recently the protests of the young students in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka that eventually resulted in toppling of the governments. So this is the thing that is more common in South Asia, with no near possible solution for any kind of stakeholders or policy makers involved. So, based on the introduction, the importance of the transportation, as well as the idea that we are trying to present, is that we are trying to, first initiate or incur the inoperability, the problem or the harmful impact that's created in the transportation industry of Pakistan, and to see its ripple effects in the interrelated industries. So, for example, in simple words, we have a problem in the transportation industry due to the protests, but we also want to see that what are the impacts in the other interconnected industries that are connected with the transportations industries directly or indirectly. In this case, in the first objective, we are looking at the ripple effects, but in the second objective, we are also evaluating the economic losses because And on one end, we will be knowing the economic losses incurred in the transport supply chain, but on the other side, we will know that what other interrelated industries are impacted. The third objective is then to assess the harmful impacts as causes. Those harmful impacts will prove as our criteria factors for the AHP technique. And lastly, we will evaluate alternatives as resilient strategies to help mitigate those harmful impacts and to enable the stakeholders and the policymakers to formulate any possible recommendations or you can say implementations in the current economy so that this problem can be resolved in a longer term. This is the literature review that we have conducted so far. It is just to highlight the main studies that have incorporated such an area. And we can see examples in the case of Hong Kong, then the protests impacts on the infrastructure systems, and then also the importance of sustainable transportation in the case of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. And then also some of the literature related to the techniques that we are trying to implement, which is in the case of UK, which was the study was carried out actually to see the disruptions caused by the volcano eruptions to the flights in UK back in 2014-15. And also one of the example related to the implementation of AHP technique in the routes selection in multimodal networks. That leads us to the literature gap that we are trying to cover with the literature that we have studied so far. And the novelty or the major impact point of the current study is that there is not a single study that carries out the implementation of assessing the transportation shock and then to see its direct and indirect impacts on the other connected sectors, and that too in the recent political protest contest. And that's not only in Pakistan, but it is worldwide. There is not a single study implemented yet. The other novelty of this study is that we are proposing because you can say that it is not like a casual combination of AHP technique that we see usually because we see applications of TOPSIS or Weicker techniques or ANP with AHP. But this is a kind of a technique that involves the inoperability extended multi-sectoral model along with AHP. So that's like another type of methodology that we are trying to develop. And what will it do? It will analyze the disruptions in the input-output linkages. In input-output linkages means that the output of one industry proves to be the input of another industry. So all of these industries are linked, their outputs and inputs are linked, and that's why it becomes an interconnected economy. And that is why a problem in one sector needs to be evaluated in the other sectors as well. And to assess the impacts, to recommend resilient strategies. That is, you can say, in a developing countries context, it's a first of its kind study. The methodology, as I have explained so far, in the first step, we will be dealing with the secondary data, and that's the social accounting metrics that's being developed by IPRI. That's an international organization that develops this accounting metrics, and that is like a complete picture of any economy, in this case for Pakistan's context. And we will be applying the IEMM technique on the top of it. The second stage, we will proceed with the primary data collection, and we will involve the experts in a concerned industry, and we will deal with the AHP technique to analyze the disruptions caused in the transportation supply chain. This is the overall steps or the outline, and I can just describe it briefly that we are computing linkages. Linkages is the connectivity between the two or more than two connected sectors. We will be implementing or introducing shock in the transportation industry, and then to see its effects on the other sectors. And of course, we will also rank the sectors based on their economic losses. So, for example, if the transportation sector is impacted by a mile, it will be on the top, followed by the other sectors. Then in the second stage, we will evaluate the criteria. Criteria factors will be those harmful impacts or the disruptions or the risks, you can say. And as an alternative, we will be assessing the resilience strategies that will result in the policy formulation for the stakeholders. So, moving out towards the end of the discussion is that the research is actually trying to implement how to make the transportation sustainably resilient. And by that we mean that whatever happens, whether it's a natural disaster, whether it's a protest, whatever the problem is, the transportation sector or any other supply chain needs to be sustainable, just like we observed in the case of COVID-19, where everything went on hold into lockdown, and a lot of the industries were quite affected by that. Similarly, this research will prove a pathway for the stakeholders, as well as it will open a door to a person who likes to experiment with the techniques or the methodology involved, and they like to, bring up some spice and incorporate this hybrid model that we are recommending. And of course, we can always make it more complex by introducing the CGE models. In that, we will be dealing with tons and tons of equations to see the complete picture. But since it will be above the context of this in study, I didn't go into too much detail. So lastly, the conclusion, the study is trying to see the impact of the protest on the transportation sector, but also on the intersectoral dependencies to the connected sectors. We are also looking at the economic ripple effects to see which of the industries are impacted and to ensure that the supply chain disruptions are dealt with and mitigation strategies are recommended to ensure the sustainability and the resilience of the industry. And that's the model that we are presenting. It is for someone who would want to implement it in the future. It will help them in analyzing economic interactions at one time with different industries. You will be helpful. You will be having a lot of help in looking at the policy changes or shocks at the same time on different sectors. Or even if someone wants to see it with the other countries, maybe you would want to see the political impact in Pakistan, but to see its impact on other countries with whom Pakistan is involved in their trades and markets, we can also be able to see it that. The limitations, of course, time constraints, because to gather that amount of data needs a lot of background work, and that's why we had to proceed with whatever availability we had. And of course, this type of analysis excludes the external factors like global market conditions, policy changes in other countries, because you are looking at one sort specific sector because of one specific problem. So that marks the end of the presentation. These are the studies that we have implemented in this presentation. And that's me, the one of the authors. I am nearing end of my PhD in University of Macerata, and that's my fellow co-author who is also my supervisor in master's degree, and he's from Fahad bin Sultan University, Tabuk, Saudi Arabia. So that's the entire presentation, and that's all from my side. I hope I was able to put some light into this big aspect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Amin, and it was a really interesting topic that you shared your presentation on. I do have one question that I would like to ask, but first I would like to ask our participants, if they have any questions that they want to ask from you. Any questions? Well, it seems there are no any questions. So, Dr. Amin, I would like to ask one question. Have you ever thought of doing any study where you create a logistic model in which you use the analytical hierarchy process or any other multiple criteria decision making, where our logistic models have different criterias or criterias in shape of different routes, where logistics can uh, apply a different routes. So depending on the like the protest, so that in this way, all the different parallels can be met. So there are no any economic harms to the logistic models, and in the same way, basic human rights like political protest or something that can also be made, because the protest is also a basic human right, and the logistic models using analytical hierarchy process or the multiple criteria decision making model, so economic harm can also be minimized. Have you ever thought of creating any logistic model to get to this?
To put into that, I have already done a similar kind of research in the case of coal supply chain, actually. And that included not only the transportation, but overall the origin point to the end point. I didn't implement the AHP technique, but I went with the similar approach. The criteria, the alternatives, but I implemented it via in interpretive structural modeling, which is a supply chain technique, along with the fuzzy topsis. That is another multi-criteria decision-making technique. So you can say that I literally implemented the same logic, but with a different MCDM technique. And I have implemented AHP technique in the case of electric vehicle selection. In that, we actually incorporated two or three different types of studies, techniques. So that became like a comparative technique study. Like we had best worst method, we had AHP, we had TOPSIS, and we had also a technique called full consistency method. That is like a very recent technique developed by a Serbian researcher with whom I have worked and published a few research, and in that we also did the same thing. Regarding keeping the aspect of humanitarian thing, that will be as a criteria in my this study which I have presented, because as I said, it is still a work in a progress. So one of the criteria is the human rights, or anything related to that we say that a right to protest or a right to speak openly. So that's one of the categories. So you can say it's been implemented, but I rather implement. I already implemented it in back in 2020 in the case of cold supply chain. That involves the carrying of cold products and vaccinations and all that, because it was a study required for that time, because of it was done in the case of COVID-19. So we thought that it could be a right time to consider it, and it became like one of the chapters in my master's thesis as well.
Okay, thank you so much. And I hope all the research studies that you did in the past and you might have found very promising results.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, so there are no any questions from the audience, and Dr. Amin was the last speaker in our this session. And so I would like to conclude. So thank you so much for being here. And it was a great presentation from all those three speakers. And whoever will be celebrating Christmas, I wish a great Christmas with your loved ones. And yeah, so bye from my side. Ciao from Italy.